So depression, if you were to ask me how depression feels like, at the beginning, it will be a lot of sadness, a lot of guilt. And then after you experience it for so long, I think the brain just gets tired out and the brain shuts down, and then you feel the emptiness.
Welcome to the Label Life Podcast, a podcast series by itallstartshere.sg, a community-based platform where any Singaporeans can talk to a trained listener and genuinely share about their problems without any fear of judgment. In this podcast series, hosted by one of our Hearbuds Magic Bowl, we hope to create meaningful conversations around mental health through the stories of Singaporeans, ordinary Singaporeans like you and me, but who struggled through the so-called labelled life. In doing so, we hope to raise awareness of mental well-being and break down the stigma surrounding mental health. So, let's start here.
Today, we have with us here Amos.
Hi.
Amos has a story to tell us today which is close to his heart. So maybe, Amos, maybe you want to tell us more about yourself.
Oh, sure. I'm Amos. I'm 27 this year. Currently, right now, I'm supposed to be going back to school in January. So I'm just taking on part-time jobs here and there. Currently, right now, I'm working at mental health community charity, being a youth coordinator. So I just started last week, actually. So working with youths, helping them, learn skills to help with the community. And plan different workshops and activities. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe can you tell us one thing new about you in November?
Oh, wow. I think, that personally would be that job. And also one thing new. I just got out of a relationship. And and I guess this month is mainly me trying to, just get better, recover, take the time to rest, and get ready for the new semester in school.
All right.
So what happened was actually linking back to my story, right? I actually have a diagnosis of depression in 2017, and things were going all right. And then it's a very long story, but long story short, I relapsed earlier this year. So I took a leave of absence from my master's program, and this has been more than half a year that I've been on the leave of absence, and I'm going back to studies in January.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So maybe you said that you had a bout of depression and anxiety in 2017. So maybe before that, what was your day-to-day life like?
Okay, so before I was diagnosed, I was in university. I was studying biological sciences and psychology, and I was living on the hall on campus in a dormitory. So I guess my life, actually most of it was about studying. So I'm quite a studious person. I don't really like studying, but I'm good at studying. So I guess that year I was in my third year of uni. I was staying on hall. I was staying in a single room. So it was quite isolating. Didn't really go back home much. Basically it was just, hanging out with friends after class and going back to my room to study. It was quite boring, nothing much. And maybe going out for a few dates here and there, but most of it was just like studying. And I do a bit of sports as well back then. So nothing really special actually.
Okay. At the point where you realize that you are sort of diagnosed with depression, how do you know that you are going through that process of depression?
Yeah, actually, so that is a good question, because I guess the first signs that I noticed actually came when I was in JC, when I was 17. That period was quite a bad period in my life, because I came from a prestigious school, an all-boys school in secondary school, and then I transitioned into a co-ed JC. And just so happened, during that transition, the first year in JC, I started having a very bad breakout of acne. And so that really, the first year being in contact with girls again for like in a school setting, it was really, very, very bad timing. So it really affected my self-esteem, my self-confidence. And that's when I started to have low moods. Just loss of interest, loss of any pleasure in like doing the things that I like, and coupled with the fact that JC is a very stressful period. I'm sure most listeners would understand, like, the A-level period, and there's just suddenly so many different changes, the stress of the different academic subjects, and it was also the first time that I was struggling academically in school. So all of that just really accumulated, and I started noticing myself having low moods, having difficulty waking up. I missed a couple of days of school, actually quite a bit of school. Just didn't feel like going to school, difficulty concentrating, thoughts about taking my life. It was quite at that point, it wasn't that bad yet. It was just like passive thoughts. Stuff like, I hope I wake up, and I hope I sleep and I don't wake up. Thoughts of like, I wish I could get into an accident so I don't have to carry on living this very difficult life. So at that point I wasn't diagnosed yet. It was only so that was when I was JC, that was 2011, I think. So I actually struggled with this low moods through my JC, through NS, and the first few years of university. Yeah.
So back then when you were feeling this kind of those kind of thoughts about not waking up, suicidal thoughts. Can I say that?
Yeah, sure.
So, do you think there is enough support back then?
To be honest, I think back then the mental health literacy or the mental health awareness in Singapore wasn't as good as today. I think back then, even in my vocabulary, even though I was from a good school, I had very good education, I don't remember hearing anything about mental health being taught in school. But things have changed so much. Back then, they even crossed my mind. It wasn't in my vocabulary that this could be a mental health condition. Right. So I just thought it was just, school stress, just stress. Maybe that's the only word that I could use to describe it back then. And it didn't even cross my mind to, see a school counselor, or I guess I thought, I really felt alone of my struggles. Like, okay, I went to see the doctor, the dermatologist outside for like acne medication. I tried confiding in my friends, but actually they weren't very helpful. And it didn't help that, when we are experiencing like low moods or depression, we like to isolate. We tend to see the world very negatively, and we have that tendency to isolate ourselves, distance ourselves from friends and social support. So I guess I'm not sure if there was support out there. I'm sure there was school counselor in my JC, but I guess a lot of it is the stigma as well. Like, I didn't know what to expect. If I go to the counselor, will people look at me differently? How would the counselor react? How could they even help? I just didn't have any understanding of what help I needed, and that even needed help. Yeah.
I agree with you about this stigma issue. I guess in the Asian context, it's quite difficult to I think last time it's quite difficult to destigmatize mental health issues. But I guess times are changing, and I really hope through these interactions and through all the education that we are garnering outside, all I hope is the mental health issue will be destigmatized, and everyone will take it that mental health issues is just another illness like flu. So so at a point of time, you said in 2017 where you were diagnosed with mental health or depression. What is the process like thereafter?
Thereafter. Can I talk a bit more about how I got there?
Sure. Go ahead.
So it's quite, so like I was saying, I struggled with it, all these low moods. I actually suspected that it was depression a bit earlier, like maybe when I started uni, when I was studying psychology, and then there's this introduction to psychology, and they talk about abnormal psychology, and you learn about the different mental health diagnoses like depression, anxiety, OCD, and so on. And then the depression one, I remember reading my textbook and just looking at the symptoms, and I was like, hey, this sort of, I can resonate with almost everything. And I know it's not that you recommended to self-diagnose, but I was, that thought process of, could I be having depression? I remember texting my friends, asking, does this sound like, do I have depression and all that? And they told me, just take it easy, don't jump to conclusions. And so how I got diagnosed was, it was only in uni that I reached out to a counselor in school, uni counselor. And I was going through counseling, and I found it helpful, but it didn't really totally eliminate all those negative thoughts and the mood. I was struggling with school stress and relationship stuff as well. It got to the point where my relationship sort of was a bit of a breakdown, and that actually triggered the very, it really spiraled me down into depression, really. And how I got diagnosed was it got to the point where I was almost going to take my life. I wanted to a trigger warning. I wanted to jump in front of a bus, and I realized thank God I realized that I actually didn't want to die. So I made an emergency sort of appointment with my counselor. I went down straight away, and she brought me, after I think about an hour of back and forth discussion and debate with her, that she brought me down to the A&E. And that was when I was diagnosed in the A&E, and I had to wait for 3 hours in the cold emergency room just to see the psychiatrist before I was diagnosed. So the process after that, I remember the psychiatrist was a female, and she asked me a lot of questions, and it was quite interrogative, and asking me, how long have you been feeling this way? Do you have thoughts of suicide? Did you experience anything strange, like hearing voices and all that? I guess right now I understand why they have to ask this, because they have to understand, what kind of disorder I'm going through, what kind of condition I'm having. So after that, thankfully I wasn't warded, because I guess because at that time I didn't really have very active suicidal thoughts. I didn't have a plan. If someone has a plan and I'm going to do this, I'm going to take this medication, I'm going to at this point, at this time, I'm going to do something, then maybe there's a higher risk. But for me, I didn't have that. I just had the thoughts in the back of my mind to maybe end my life. So actually, she prescribed me medication, antidepressant, and basically I had to call my dad to come down and fetch me. And I remember crying on the phone, thinking I'm such confessing, saying sorry to my dad, I'm such a lousy son and all that. And he came down, and basically we went home. And I remember the doctor and my counselor advised him and my family to keep a very close eye on me, take away all the dangerous knives, lock all the windows at home. And that next 2 months I was banned at home, mostly bedridden, because of the depression. So when someone is depressed, you really lose a lot of interest in life, and you lose a lot of energy. You almost feel you feel very heavy. You feel like you don't have any motivation to do anything. So I was basically it almost sounds like it was as if I was having an illness, really physical illness. I can't get out of bed. I totally didn't feel anything. So depression, if you were to ask me how depression feels like, at the beginning it will be a lot of sadness, a lot of guilt. And then after you experience it for so long, I think the brain just gets tired out, and the brain shuts down, and then you feel the emptiness. You really have no idea of, even you have no memory of how it feels like to feel anything. Just like a blank, very dull. Even your tastes get your taste. When you eat stuff, you can't really taste anything. When you go out and you hear music, or you're with your friends, even though it's a happy occasion, people are happy, smiling. I mean, you can smile and you can fake it, but actually inside, I didn't really feel anything. So it was a very strange period and quite distressing, actually. That was the process. I was on medication. And thankfully on the medication, I guess the suicidal thoughts went away. But I took quite a while, like maybe months. Yeah, and I restarted school again. Yeah.
So you said about 2 months that you were away
Yeah.
from social contact, or you sort of only at home
Yeah.
that 2 months.
Maybe about a month. I guess the good thing is I do have good social support. Like I have contacts, I have close friends from uni, and it actually took a bit of courage for me to open up to them. Telling them that I'm going through depression. I'm diagnosed. I'm on medication. I'm actually feeling very down at home, and I think I did have one or two friends that were very supportive. So they actually chill me out and chill me out, go to like have dinner. Back then was before COVID lah. So we could like really go out and have a meal, chit chat. I remember one instance when it was I went to town with a friend, and then there's just all these lights, and it was just so overwhelming. Yeah, something very I didn't experience before. Like it was just so many sensations, but inside I was just very empty, and I just felt like going back home. But I think those actions of my friends, they really helped me to step out of that deep hole, because when you're alone, when you're isolated, especially if you don't have very supportive family, or your family doesn't know how to support you or respond to you like my parents did. I guess I don't blame them, because nobody taught them. There wasn't any awareness of how to support someone who's going through a mental health crisis. So they just basically left me alone. And I mean, my mom cooked a lot of nice food. My dad made sure I was comfortable. But in terms of support, like emotional support, they weren't that helpful. And it was my friends that really helped me step out of it by going out with me, having this chit chat and all that. Yeah.
So don't mind me asking.
Sure.
Do you have siblings at home?
Yeah, I do have an elder brother. So long story is my brother has high functioning autism. So he and the thing about that is on top of that, he doesn't communicate with us at home. Any of my family members, he hasn't talked to us in almost 20 over years. So I didn't really have any support from him as well. Yeah, maybe to carry on the story. So actually another thing that helped me in my recovery is not just my close friends that I already had, but I also, went to the net. I went up online and I searched about people like with depression or other mental health conditions in Singapore. And I came across a few, not a lot, but a few resources like videos, people getting interviewed, Singaporeans with mental health conditions getting interviewed. And I heard their stories, and that really gave me a lot of hope, because I heard their stories. I heard the kind of the struggles they've been through. And I know that actually, I'm not alone in my struggle. And I think back then, I think that was 2017. I think it was the first year they launched the Beyond the Label campaign. And then it was when mental health was more talked about. And then there was a statistic like 1 in 8. I think back the first year in the mental health study from IH, they found that 1 in 8 Singaporeans will experience mental health issues in their lifetime. Yeah. And then it became 1 in 7. That really made me realize that, actually it's very common. 1 in 7. Yeah. And I actually realized when I started opening up, the first few times I opened up, I tell my friends or speak about my condition to the wider community, it is scary. But when I started, talking to my closer friends and some of the friends that I've lost contact with, actually they started opening up about their mental health issues as well to me. And I didn't realize, it was quite a shock that some of my friends from, secondary school, from JC, they were also struggling in silence. That I didn't know they were going through. Some of my very good friend has schizophrenia. He went overseas, studied medicine, and he opened up about how he was warded in a psychiatric ward. And all these stories really, made me realize, hey, that was when I actually started having that interest in mental health, to want to be in the mental health field, to really want to do something to get the message out there, to spread awareness and to really help others like how I've been helped. So it's really, when we are having mental health issues and that diagnosis strikes you and, you're in so much distress, so many negative thoughts, and you have that label, that stigma against you, a lot of times when people have that, their whole identity is consumed by the mental health condition. Like, for example, I'm a depressed person, I have anxiety, I'm OCD, I am a schizophrenic. And when you're stuck in that label, people find it they find it, how do I put it, very disempowering.
Okay. Coincidentally, you mentioned about labels.
Yeah.
And this podcast is also called The Labeled Life. So, it's kind of worrying if people label you. So, have you been labeled before by your friends or close friends or family members?
I would say I'm quite lucky. I guess because depression is a more milder sort of, people can relate to it better. But I can't say the same for other people in mental health community with maybe more severe forms of mental health conditions like schizophrenia, when you hear things and see things when you're not there, which are not there. But for me, my brush with stigma, with that label, right? I guess where I felt the most affected by it was in school because I was still studying in uni. And I remember there was one day where I just felt like in class, like I just felt like, I don't want to hide this anymore, that I'm going through depression. And just what happened was the first day of class, and the lecturer, it was a mental health module, and then the lecturer asked, has anyone tell us, we go around the room and tell us about, your experience with mental health issues, be it, helping someone or volunteering or even yourself. And I thought, I'm so done with this. I'm just going to say that, I spoke out and said, I'm actually going to, I just came from the psychiatrist and I've been diagnosed with depression for a few months now. And after I said that, the whole room just got silent. A class of like 20 plus uni students, they just got silent and they didn't know how to respond. I mean, I didn't know any of them. They were strangers. I mean, I had a good friend with me. I just felt, and I think part of it is because, it's a topic, it's like a taboo topic, right? Nobody talks about. It's like something, especially in Asian culture, it's something you keep, like dirty laundry at home, like you don't really air it, like you don't tell people that I have this illness, even though it should be similar to how we talk about, other physical illness like diabetes, hypertension. I guess people don't go around telling people that as well, but I think there's a bigger stigma against mental health issues because people think that, maybe this person is a bit crazy or is weak-minded, or I don't want to be around this person because, I might get depression too or something like that. Or I don't know how this person will react, So when I was working in that class in a group project, and now they know that I have depression, then I was really struggling with concentrating on doing project, and I couldn't keep up my end, like I couldn't contribute my part of the project. And I just felt, they didn't say it out explicitly, but I felt like they were judging me, and I felt like they were hating on me. It was quite tough, and it's just difficult. Yeah.
So yes, I do agree that we can do more about this stigma, the taboo about mental health. I guess education is key, as also outreach that we as mental health advocate, like yourself, life experience, sharing your life experience about going through that journey of depression, how you recover from it. I think it's a good way, I guess, to move forward, to look beyond the label.
Yes.
Right. So I guess that's the main thing about that national campaign about Beyond That Label campaign that Singapore is introducing in 2017, right? So I guess it's we should take baby steps.
Yeah.
I guess it's now on their 6-7 year.
Around 4 actually.
4, 17, correct. About 4 years that they have been through. I guess they are taking baby steps. I think everyone right now knows about mental health bits and pieces. I also think that because of COVID-19, it also increases that awareness among people on mental health, right? So maybe I have about 2 more questions for you. You mentioned about your quote just now.
Yeah.
It was quite I like that quote. Can you probably repeat that quote again?
So I think I don't want to butcher it, but I think it says recovery is remembering who you are and using all your strengths to become who you are meant to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So behind the quote, I guess what the quote is trying to say, it's about finding your own true self.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the whole meaning of that quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one last question. Do you have any words of advice for men or women out there who are struggling with mental illnesses?
Yeah. I think one thing, if you are someone who is experiencing mental health issues and it's troubling you, is making you unable to function in daily life, and you really feel like you're not sure if it's severe enough or it warrants going to see a doctor or getting some mental health professional support. I would say just take that first step. I would say another quote that I have used for the Beyond the Label campaign. I'm ambassador. I just volunteered to be ambassador this year, and the quote that I shared was that you alone cannot do. You alone have to do it, but you don't have to do this alone. So I feel that it's scary to really go and get professional help, but I tell you, it's actually not as scary as it seems. Actually, taking that first step, of opening up, it can be, you don't have to go to the doctor immediately, but you can just open up to a trusted loved one, someone that will listen and support you, and just talking about, maybe what you're going through and how it can be difficult, and getting some support or advice, getting someone to maybe accompany you to seeing a mental health professional, just to like how physical illness, right? Let's say you discover, you have a lump in somewhere, like a cancer, like you suspect it's cancer. And when somebody detects that, I think the first response, oh no, is this cancer or anything? I better get it checked out. And sometimes, it's the same thing. Like it's scary to, really go to the doctor and what if it is really cancer? Then what's going to happen? But I think the earlier you do it, the better chances of recovery, definitely. So get the support. Just pluck up a bit of courage, go see a psychiatrist or psychologist and work things out, because that is the first step. It's the biggest step you can take, and it's the most important step. I think once you take that step and then listen to what the professional has to offer, and get support, get social support around you to help you journey together in this journey. And the hope is, and I just want to hold the hope for you that recovery, like from my experience, I'm actually living a much better life, even better before than I was diagnosed. So, and I really discovered my calling because of what I've been through. So it is possible, and you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to do this alone. Recovery is really possible.
Okay. So yes, I think to sum up what Amos has spoke about, I guess building strong relations with I think it's rather than have about 100 social media friends, I think it's best to just have few real friends, which you can talk to about your conditions and to journey with you, right? And also, I guess to manage your chronic conditions, like consult your doctor, and also like follow the treatment plan carefully and have your medications taken regularly, right? And I guess at the end of the day, it's all about how you wish to be the better version of yourself in the future, right?
And there's definitely hope out there. When we are especially when you're in depression and you're having thoughts of worthlessness, it can seem so dark. Like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But I can tell you that when you're in that state, your brain is just playing a lot of tricks on you, and there is hope out there.
So thank you so much, Amos.
Thanks, Bo.
So we have come to the end of the episode, and I hope that we all move beyond the label. And let's destigmatize all things related to mental health, and catch you guys at another episode of the Labeled Life podcast series. And don't forget to visit our website at www.itallstartshere.sg. Thank you very much, Amos. And
Thank you.
hope you have a good time. Magic bow out.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Labeled Life podcast, a podcast by itallstartshere.sg. You can follow itallstartshere.sg on our Instagram and Facebook. And remember, our earbuds are always here for you if you need a listening ear.